Hello, David Vose here, guys. Well, I'm out here at Lake Eufaula. It's a beautiful place. It's very cloudy and gray for the last couple of days. It's kind of eerie. It's kind of neat. But it does remind me of what we were talking about yesterday and the planet Pandora. Because there's a little bit of a haze always covering that planet. And there's a lot of really weird, different kind of energy going on there. A lot of weird trees. So I think this tree that's in front of us is a little bit kind of eerie, kind of neat. But, you know, today I want to talk a little bit more about this whole thing that we were talking about. Some of the different planets that we may have lived on, places we may be going to. I think it's very interesting that I've said before, I don't really believe in coincidences. And the universe puts a lot of things there right before our eyes. Somehow our mind gets lost in all of the things that's going on. We panic and we don't understand anything because we're confused by things that are so simple. You know? It's kind of like scaring like an animal. Maybe you scare a horse. He's real skittish. And then one day you bring out a carrot or an apple and you hand it to him and he's like, "Oh, I'm not taking that apple." You know, they want the apple, but they're scared. And they don't know how to, they've been fooled before. A lot of you have been fooled by teachers and knowledge and books and ideas or maybe religions. It's really hard for you to start believing anything anymore. But you see, what I'm trying to do here is to help you see that you don't need to be afraid of your own mind. Because it's telling you things. It's right in front of your face. There are no coincidences. If you wake up in the morning and you got a big present waiting for you at the door, you don't even know if you're supposed to be happy. You're like, is this a trick? Whatever, So I think we have to relearn how to be happy and how to begin to see the world and learn to know that there are things that you can believe and there are things that you should never really think about seriously. Like if somebody's a politician and they're talking to you, you probably shouldn't even imagine or wonder that maybe they've got anything good to say. Or if you're going to go to a church, they're probably just going to be preaching from not the Bible. They probably don't have any understanding about those thought forms that are in those parables. They don't know how to interpret it. And they're probably doing just like the Pharisees and scribes that Jesus talked to. And he said, "You guys are just looking at the letter. And you're demanding that we kill people because the Bible says you got to kill people." The Apostle Paul says the letter of the law kills. So if you look at things one way, it can be very, very disheartening and frightening and confusing. So we have to be able to figure out that, I always say it's kind of like the game Dungeons and Dragons. In that game, you go along, and at first you don't have any power. You could get killed very easily because you don't have any cloak of invisibility. You don't have any swords or any clubs or any helmet or any armor or any magic, wands or any gifts. And so I believe when you're going through this world, you've got to acquire certain gifts to get through it. If you can get all your gifts, you can get through this world very, very well with a big smile on your face. can be a really, really pleasurable thing. Because when I say there's a lot of bad things in this world, I don't think it's the bad things are part of this world. I don't think this world is any different than anywhere else. I mean, there's some dark places on Pandora. There's some dark places on this earth. There's some scary jungles, and there's some animals that are really, like serpents, But the serpent, in its deadliest form, or the kinds of animals that live on this planet, remember, the serpent can be deadly, but it's also, there's two different kinds of serpents. Somebody asked me about this the other day. It says, how could Jesus be a serpent? Because there's a verse somewhere in the Bible that says something about serpents being bad. And if you look at those verses where it talks about bad serpents, it's talking about poisonous asps or vipers. Jesus called the Pharisees vipers. Those are poisonous. They don't really have any wisdom. There are two different kinds of serpents. There always was. There was two serpents in the garden. One that goes upward, up your spine, and the other one comes down. One who brings the information from the deep recesses of your carnal self. In other words, it is a messenger of your inner lustful carnal being. And there is a messenger from above, which is a wise serpent. That serpent has wings. But I know when Alalu came to the earth in the Sumerian tablets, he talks about when he arrived here, he landed in this little water place. And the first thing he mentions is he saw a serpent. And he said it was strange because he had never seen a serpent before. I think that's just like the Bible. I think the Sumerian tablets are very symbolic. I think it's trying to say that Sirius, which is closer to the sun, closer to the center of the galaxy, which is south from the Earth. North is Polaris, which is towards the outer end, the outer extremity of the galaxy. So when you look back, you're looking south towards the center of the galaxy, and Sirius is only about 8.6 light years away towards the center, from which direction we came. We're moving out towards Polaris, to the North Star. The Bible says that the Pleiades, and where there's Alcyon is one of the stars in the Pleiades, that is where we originally came from, towards the center of the galaxy. And then there's another large metropolis area or of souls in the area of Aldebaran in Taurus. And you kind of keep going around the astrological wheel until you get to the North Star, where these are the immortal ones. They don't ever die. They don't go down and come back up. And we're going to get into that here in a little bit, how we finally get out to that place called Polaris. See, we're halfway out in the galaxy now, 50,000 years from the center. So, looking back, only just 8.6 light years away, that's not very far from the Earth, back towards the center. So, that's not very far, and therefore it wasn't very long ago that we were there incarnating. And it was from there, in that area, that we incarnated and came down. The Anunnaki, the children of God, came to the earth. Saw the daughters of men. We began to incarnate upon this world. And of course, that's just a very brief outline. There's other things involved there. It isn't just, there are other planets and stars mentioned in the Sumerian tablets. Alalu went to another went to another place. He went to Mars for a while, and the Iji were on Mars, and then they ended up down here on the Earth and married into the line of the Canaanites and so forth. But if you're looking back just 8.6 light years, that's very, very close. It's probably the third or the second, well, it's probably third or fourth closest star to the Earth. I mean, there's lots of stars. Some of them probably don't even see. They're small. But this is what science is saying. It's probably third or fourth in distance. I mean, there's other places like, well, and then they also talk about Proxima. There's Alpha Centauri and Proxima Centauri, and there's A and B Sirius. So these are other stars. But when I say Sirius, that's just a general location. There might be several planets around that area that are inhabited. And then there is the Centauri area, which is closer. That's 4.4 light years away. So, and I know for certain that we have had many incarnations on Alpha Centauri, on a planet called Pandora that goes around that star, and it's near Earth. So it's something in our evolutionary progress that's very near to us. And so when you're hearing about Alalu saying, I never saw a serpent before, it looks to me, or in that symbolism, he's saying that the serpent is a very unique thing. Now, if he was looking at it from the point of view as a poisonous thing, then he would say, you know, if you're going back towards the center of the galaxy, it gets purer and purer. Alcyon and the Pleiades is a pure spiritual place of light. There isn't any deception. Those individuals that live there, they don't know anything about the carnal nature yet. As you go down, you start going into, you know, the first incarnation is like a fish, and then that which is like a bird. Those are relatively, they're not carnal. Their nature of the fish is they don't do much harm. Yeah, there is that mammalian creature, like sharks and whales and things like that. Well, I don't think sharks are mammalian, but not sure about that. But there are some very large sea beasts that can be kind of ferocious and that, you know, symbology talks about. But for the most part, fish are more or less, you know, just fish. They're not like lions going around killing things. I mean, their nature is real primitive. And then you graduate up to the birds, and there you see the fact that it's almost like it's a different, you know, birds and fish, they live in two different worlds. Fish live in the water, birds live in the sky. So it's really saying that we graduate from one world, a type of world, a way of life, a totally different creature, a totally different nature, right? The fish nature is totally different from the bird nature. The birds, they rule over the sky. And the mammals would rule over the earth. We talk about the lion being the king of the beasts. And Taurus, being a cow, would be the king of the domesticated animals. So land animals like sheep, goats, cows, and deer, and things that are domesticated, the bull is the king of that. And then you have man, which is the highest realm in the entire gamut. It's like a graduation from fish, birds, mammals to men. So this is what we're doing. We're graduating. And as we're going outward, you know, just 8 light years away from Earth, people that were living in that area for a long time hadn't even experienced whatever it is that the serpent represented in their evolution yet. So it was kind of a new thing. And a lot of things began to happen right around the area of the Alpha Centauri, which is 4.4 light years from here. 4 being very interesting there, because that's a word that means the 4 elements and the 4 directions of the winds. It pretty much represents the entire physical realm, not necessarily into the carnal. And when we begin to start getting conscious and selfish and pulling at ourselves and becoming more schizophrenic and irrational and having this battle going on inside of ourselves, and really a very hard schoolmaster, a teaching process. But you see, all this war and hate and death didn't come about until we get about halfway out into the galaxy around Alpha Centauri, where we opened Pandora's box, and all of this stuff like war and death and hate came out of the box, and we couldn't put it back in. And so, you know, it's kind of like Humpty Dumpty. Excuse me. It's kind of like Humpty Dumpty, who sat on a great wall, and he had a great fall, and you couldn't put him back together again. But you see, you can put it back together again, because the most amazing thing is our loving Father has made a plan so that this carnal, physical world is something we can incarnate into, and then we can leave. We get a reprieve. The hell is opened, and the dead shall come out. And you can attain unto immortality. And then you don't have to go back into this wheel of rebirth again. But along the way, we're going to go through these stages. So the whole thing starts around Pandora, which is very, very close to Earth. And it seems like the whole thing is playing out quite apparently on this Earth itself. But remember, the garden that Yahweh made is the zodiac. It is the entire 12 planets. It is the entire 12 houses. And we have to graduate through all of them, from the fish all the way up. And you see, remember, Virgo is the one who gives birth to the child. He goes down into Egypt. He goes down into the area of where they're building these four-dimensional buildings, and they're building physicality and carnality, and that's where the bottomless pit is. Those three houses of Libra, that's justice, right after Virgo. She's also a woman. Virgo and Libra, and then Scorpio and Sagittarius, and that is where the Centauri half horses, and you got they look like horses, but they had men's faces, and they come up out of hell in the book of Revelation. So that is in that place that is in the bottomless pit, towards hell, towards the south. And then you go to the area where the pinnacle of the lower mountain, Sinai, and that God comes down on his mountain, and the moon rains down there in the darkness, and it's a lesser light. It's an illusion. It's darkness. It's void of all of these amazing truths, such as love and goodness and happiness. There's a lot of pain, and we're controlled by these laws and this particular God and the ego. But it has its place. We have to learn. We have to go through all of this. We have to go through all these lower realms. And even Jesus, as Jonah went into the belly of the whale and was in the ocean for 3 days and 3 nights, and that is that ocean, or the abyss, or Tiamat, or the dragon, that is talked about in Revelation. That's the original serpent, the dragon. That's not the serpent that has the wisdom, because that's what serpents mean. That kind of a serpent, a seraphis, that is a serpent of wisdom. It's not a poisonous asp. It's not a poisonous viper, but it's a serpent that brings down wisdom from the spiritual realm. And that one has wings. So we're incarnating, and we're going along, and we've come out from the source, and we're going towards the outer limits of our galaxy. Where might we go from here? Well, as we said, one of the stars, it's not too far away, it's about 25 light years away, is Vega. I think this is amazing, because like I said, there's no coincidences, but Vega, it sounds like Vegas, doesn't it? Well, there may not be a connection, but you see, it's kind of synchronistic, because the next stop, we've gone through a lot here, right? By the time we get to Vega, I think we're ready for a vacation, right? And here's what's interesting. Remember how we said what we're trying to do is become immortal. Well, Vega used to be the North Star. Now it's Polaris. It changes over a period of some 24,000 years. It goes around and different stars take their throne. See, Polaris represents the emperor, or the throne of the son of the Father, who is Jesus, the phoenix. And his father in that Greek mythology was Cephas, who originally occupied the throne in the center. And everything revolves around the Father's throne. The 24 elders are the 12 gods of the Olympian gods, or Elohim, and their wives, because there's night and day, and so they understood it as 24. There were 12 Olympians, but they had wives, and so they are the 12 divisions of the circle. And so it's a beautiful thing when you understand all the symbology. Vega, then, if it's not very far from Earth, right? 25 light years. Remember, we're talking about the distance between the center of the galaxy to the outer limits is like it's like 100,000 light years. And so from the center to the outer limits is 50,000 light years. So we're talking about a long distance. When you look out into the sky, you're seeing stars that are 100, maybe 50, possibly 20, 30 light years away, 1,000 light years away, 20, 30,000 light years away. And that's just astronomical, as they say. But when you're talking about Vega, it's just right there. It's just 25 light years. You're talking about Sirius, it's only right there. It's 8.6 light years. Alpha Centauri, 4.4. So Vega is the next stop, practically. Now, we'll talk about a couple of other stops along the way. Remember, we talked also about the movies and how they're kind of leaking little information out there. We're going to talk about Star Trek here in a minute. We talked about Picard yesterday. We're going to talk about him again today, because they've leaked quite a bit of stuff in that Star Trek series and Star Wars. But yeah, we deserve a vacation there on Vega. And that's one of the places we're going to stop off next. But guess what? When you get to Vega, if you just stayed there, it wouldn't be long and you would be at the North Pole. I mean, that's where that is. That's in the north. That's where we're going. We become immortal by that time. That's not the next stop, but it's close. We're getting there. We're almost, and all the people on this earth, when they die, they're going to be incarnate again. They either come back to the earth, or perhaps a couple of other places that we're going to talk about that's very near Earth. They're going to wake up in the center of the galaxy all of a sudden. We've been incarnating and going down this long corridor for thousands of years. They're not going to wake up tomorrow and be, in another, we're in the Andromeda galaxy or something, gazillions of miles of years and light years away. No. We're going to stay in our family, because we always incarnate with our family, and we're going to stay within our time and our evolutionary progress. So we're going to come back to this earth until we're done with it. And then we're going to be someplace very near on our escalating progression towards the North Star. And at some point, those stars are getting very large and they're going to explode into a nova, and we're going to create a whole nother bunch of stars. This is a process, and that doesn't mean we're going to explode and we're not going to know who we are. It's going to be an explosion of spiritual proportions. It's going to be a mind-expanding experience. It's not going to take 1 second. Stars don't explode in a second. Then it's not like it's just 9, 8, 7, 6, 1, boom, and it's gone, right? And that's not how it works. It's a process that takes thousands of years. So don't be worried about that. For one thing, that's not going to happen for thousands of years and thousands of years. Maybe millions of years from now. Our ego, God gives it time. A day to the Lord is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. Nobody's ever going to have to go anywhere they don't want to go. You always make the choice. Whenever you're ready, when you finally get, it's like, you go to this beautiful place, and it's just so beautiful, you don't want to leave. You want to dangle your feet in the water and fish and play and run. You don't want to leave. You don't have to. Trust me, you don't have to. But at some point, you're going to say, you know what, I've had enough of this place. This kind of gray, dark place on a lake called Eufaula, right? Now I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to Arizona where the sun's shining. I like sunshine now. And that's my thing now, right? I want to run around in the sunshine. After about 1,000 years of that, you're going to say, you know what, this is a little bit dry. I want to go someplace where there's some water. And you can do that. And in every place that you go, you're going to learn. You're going to learn what it's like to be a fish, and you're going to learn to be a bird, and you're going to learn to be all these different things. Dogs, what are they learning? Just to be happy? They're learning to have joy. That's what you're supposed to be learning. Dogs run around, jumping in the air, and rolling in the grass, and eating the daisies, and chasing the butterflies, and having a great old time. That's all they're here for. And they eat, they sleep, and they make love, and that's all they do. And really, that's all everybody does, and that's all we should be doing. But somehow or another, we've gotten, discombobulated into this world, and somebody's tricking us and deceiving us, because we've gotten to the place where there's serpents. What is this serpent doing? This kind of poisonous serpent. We're down here in the water, and Tiamat is after us, and she's swallowing us up. Our egos, we see, in preparation to become a god, you've got to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And you've got to be able to experience the bitter in order to understand the sweet. You've got to be able to put your hand in the fire to know, you see, they were telling me not to put my hand in the fire, but I didn't believe them. Now I get it. I put my hand in the fire, and by golly, it hurt. And it wasn't but a 3-second split. Boom, and I had my hand out of there. I learned quick, right? There ain't no eternal flame going to eat you and torment you forever and ever. The only purpose for any suffering in this universe, anywhere, is to teach. Never punitive. Never. Our Father in heaven would not allow punishment or torture or anything like that. Yeah, in hell, the fire is not quenched. In other words, the carnal, the lower realms are always there. They're always eternal. The gods down below are going to always rule down there. See? But you have nothing to do with them. The only God with whom we have anything to do is the God of heaven, the God of love. Those people who want to go down there, those little weirdos that like living in the dark holes, and, little pack rats that live in the little dark corners of the caves of the earth, that's their nature. Leave them alone. They are having fun. They're learning some things for a while. You got to learn the bitter before you can taste the sweet. Let them alone. Let them do their thing. We don't need to jump into a big pit of rattlesnakes and live. And, I'm trying to do charity work, right? And I'm going to give these big old serpents a big old Christmas present, and jump right on down there and say, hi there, Mr. Snake, here you go. Oh, buddy, he's going to bite you. You get out of there, and you make sure your children are far away from that place. Because we've evolved to a place where that's not our nature. That's why there's not a lot of really, angels, the good angels aren't running around down here very often. It's a very big sacrifice for an angel to come to this planet. They do so out of love. They came here to help you. They don't like it here, right? When they come down here, they don't see what you see. Sometimes they come into a place where it's just stinky and putrid, and it's like walking into a slum where vomit is all over the walls, and there's defecation and death and stink. And no, they don't really enjoy this. This is not their home. They only came here to give you a hand because they love you so much. Because you cried out. Because if any of these people that are in this area say, you know what, it's obvious that, this is the end of the road here for me, I'm leaving, just give me a little help out. Somebody's going to come along and give you the help that you need, because your progression has come. That's the way it is. So we're here for a reason. We chose to be here. And it's a very beautiful place. And we've learned a lot of things. And then one day we're going to die. We're not going to keep coming back to this place over and over and over again forever. We're going to learn some lessons. But, Jesus says you'll not leave until you pay the uttermost farthing. Which, somehow Mr. King James thought was a very wonderful word back in 1770 or whatever. But today, you might say you're going to pay the last little penny. So, what is it that you got to pay to get out of here? And who is it you got to pay? You got to pay the piper, right? Okay. Well, you see, our Father in heaven doesn't take any money for any favors, because he does everything on the basis of charity and love, because he is the source of everything and all things, and all he does is love and give and forgive, and nothing but love. There is no darkness in him at all. See, but on the flip side, on the negative side, there's one that demands, and all he does is demand and accuse day and night before our Father's throne. And, you're not guilty. He's lying about you. He's deceiving you. All you got to do is wake up, but it's there. And if you wish to be deceived, and see, you make the choice. Before you even came here, you knew what you were doing. And our subconscious mind plays little tricks on us. And we know that, sometimes you hit your thumb with a hammer and you go, ow, why did I do that? Like, I knew to be careful. I knew. I could see in that split second that I was going to hit my thumb, and I just let it happen. Sometimes, I wonder about that. It's almost as if your subconscious mind is saying, maybe we need a good thumb smashing here, just to wake you up here. Ow, okay, I woke up now. All right, okay, hold on, hang on. It's like it's something we're doing just to learn. We know we're learning. A lot of times we go right back to the same situation that we were in before. We know it's dangerous. I do that with my truck, right? I know, this truck will go anywhere. I'll go through that. I know it's a risk, but I go through the mud and boop, sure enough, there I am stuck again. Now I'm out with a shovel for 3 hours getting unstuck. And I knew that this was a risk. Why do I do this to myself? And I keep saying, well, I guess I've got some more lessons to learn, that I'm plowing forward. No matter how many times you think you've made some improvements, and you just, I ain't gonna do that again, and then there you go, you do it again. So, we choose to do all these things. Because, if we really didn't want something, like if we really didn't want, if we literally just absolutely wanted to make certain that we always had water, we would live by a well. If we are going to go out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, and risk that, then you're risking something. So you might get a little parched. We make our choices. And we're all here on this planet for now. And we're going through some of the last stages, the last gasps, some very serious suffering going on this planet. And in this area, if you remember, there was a Star Trek series show about the Borg. I always talk about the Borg. It's a big cube or something that's some kind of a strange looking Borg cube that it's like a big ship, and it's huge ship. It's like the size of a planet, but it's mobile, and it's traveling around the universe or something, and it's very evil, and they're trying to suck everybody into the Borg, and you get assimilated into the Borg. And what they do is they plug something into the back of your cranium or something. I don't know. Not really sure where it plugs in. But it really reminds me of this phone, the Google. I call the Borg the Google. And in this show on Star Trek, there's an episode where they have this huge battle with the Starfleet ships battle with the Borg, and they lose their entire fleet. I mean, they almost lose the entire battle. It's like the battle at Waterloo or World War III, or like it's the last battle to end all battles, right? They're battling the greatest threat to the Federation that there ever was, and that is this great big sucking sound of the Borg, who wants to assimilate all of you as slaves. And where do you suppose the battle took place? Well, it was on a place called, in the movie, in the episode, Wolf 359. Where is that? Well, it's an actual star in the Leo constellation, because remember, Leo is at the end, and then right after that is Virgo, who gives birth to the Christ, that goes down into hell, and they go around, and then they come up into the light and back around again. The age of Atlantis was in the days of Leo. Over 12, 13,000 years into the past. And then we've gone all the way down along the bottom of the wheel, and now we're going back up on the horizon to the sun again, back towards the days of enlightenment. Well, so that's all the way to the other end. When we get to Leo, we're at the North Star. We're at our final destination. Where are we now? Well, we're not far from that, because that star, Wolf 359, is only, I think it's about 7 light years away. It's closer than Sirius, but it's in the other direction. It's towards the north. It's towards Vega. It's toward, remember, Vega is the North Star at one time. But this Wolf 359 is in the constellation of Leo. And it was on that planet that the Borg set up shop near that planet, and they had this great battle with the Federation. And they almost lost it all. It was for all the marbles. And I think it's very interesting, because it really does seem to fit well what's really at stake here. Between this Earth and Vega, or you might say Polaris, or the North position, or the achievement of immortality. Because remember, in the north, those stars up there around Polaris, they never go down over the horizon. They don't die again. They're always immortal. They're always in the circumpolar region. And that's salvation. That's where we're headed. We're getting close. We're almost there. But just before we get there, 7 light years from this little short distance, a hop and a jump and a skip, and maybe our next incarnation might, for some people, it might be over here. We don't have to go through this. We're having the battle now, in a sense. And you might say it represents the battle we're going through now. But it might just be the battle that we're going through for the next 100 years as well. Because it isn't really just over yet. Some of us are dying now, all around us. Where are they going to come back to? Well, they're going to come back to the vicinity of the Earth. And 7 light years away from here is this particular place where, according to Star Trek, the battle took place. And it seems very odd to me that it's happening all over again. Is it synchronicity, or is it what? Because Google sounds a little bit like Gog, Magog, the final battle, or remember the when they fought that battle, and there was still what was his name, Bashan. Well, Bashan is the mountain near Hermon, and that's Mount Hermon, which is up north of Jerusalem, far way up there, the northern extremity. On Mount Hermon, where all of the Anunnaki came first to the earth. They first landed, and they made a pact, and they said, just like the Borg, right? They said, we're making a pact, and everybody who wants to assimilate, come on. We're going to conquer these people, we're going to assimilate them, and we're going to rule over them like a dark, dark force. And we've been battling with these people. They've set up, they've got the ship, they arrived, and now they ain't leaving. And they've got a headquarters right near here. And this battle is going on. Gog, king of Bashan, Mount Hermon, who, if you go to Mount Hermon, at the base of the mountain, you'll find there is a temple there called the Temple of Pan. Who is Pan? Well, it's just another word for the Capricorn or the goat beast or the beast or the Santa or the Satan or the Kronos, right? Or Yahweh, who sets up his laws or his kingdom, whose mother was Tiamat. Yes, Inky's mother was Tiamat, and she had a beast that ruled the world, and one of the kings, the general of her armies was called Kingu, and he's the one who started this thing called the Kings, and to rule, and Yahweh is the, his son is Marduk, who came to the earth and had relations with the daughters of men, and the Iji, and they have a bloodline on the earth, and now there was all others that came. They're not all bad. Noah was also a child of the gods, and so was Jesus. They came here not to assimilate, though. They came here to free us, to liberate us from the Borg. And they've set up shop. Yes, they have. And we're battling right now. And they finally got in place the cord or the contraption that you see on the show that plugs into your ear and begins to take away your mind. And as you plug this Google into your brain, it begins to assimilate you into the Borg, the Gog, or the Google. And it is a cube or a three-dimensional, reality of this carnal nature. And that is on a star called Wolf 359, 7 light years from Earth in the direction of Vega. And buddy, if we can just avoid the assimilation, guess what? We will, and we know how it ends, right? They're not going to win. Jesus came here so they would not win, right? But he told us what to do. Ignore them. Do not be assimilated. Do not listen to them. Do not put yourself under their law. You still have a choice. You don't have to do it. They're accusing you day and night. Don't listen to them. They're lying to you. Jesus showed us the way, and for anyone who wants to, just follow Jesus. No, I know you've got to go bury your father. No. Go let the dead bury their dead. I mean, all the business that you think you got to do. Oh, I got to go, pay my mortgage, and I got a bank account and it's due, and I got, certain bills, and, don't bother me with spiritual things right now. Let me get all this straightened out, and I'll declare bankruptcy, or I'll do some kind of, I got to go to court. I've got to straighten this out. I got this and that and the other thing. Then I'll come and follow you in my later years. I'll get spiritual as I get older, and then I'll have some time to study and meditate. And I'll go and maybe get a little place in the mountains and stuff when I'm retired. No, you need to pursue what is real and right before you get trapped, before you get sucked in, before you get assimilated, because you're about to get assimilated and you won't be able to get out. Then what's going to happen? I don't know. It's going to be a long time before you can get out of there. I'm sure Jesus won't let you stay in there. I mean, he loves you. He'll find you no matter where you are. If you're in the depths of the bowels of hell for thousands of years, if you make one little cry, help me, Jesus, he's going to hear you. And he'll come down, and he'll find a way. I mean, like the angels that come and help us. They don't like this stinky, wretched place, but they will come and help you. Just cry out. The angels will obey your word if you will just have the courage to speak. Because like Jesus said, if you just asked me, I would have given you eternal water that leads to eternal life and peace and happiness. So don't worry about the Wolf Star 359 on the left. You're going to Vegas, all right? You're going to Vegas, and there's another place called Altar that's got another beautiful place. We might stop off there for a little vacation, but we're going to Vegas, friends, and we're going to have a good time. I remember the little song my mom used to sing me. we'd be, we lived up in Idaho for a long time when I was still a young kid, and we'd drive down to California to see my grandma and my aunt, and we'd go down there, and they'd always take us to Disneyland or something, and Mom would sing us, well, we gotta go, and where we go, and what are we gonna do? We're on our way to Disney, the three of us and you. Pack up your bags, we're on our way. We haven't got a dime, but we're going, and we're gonna have a happy time, and we're gonna have time. And it was fun. The whole trip, it was fun. We'd go to Disneyland, we'd go to the big flea markets. That's when my aunt bought me my first guitar, beautiful little red guitar. It was an old, very difficult to play, but I started learning to play guitar on that. And some years later, my mother bought me a beautiful, beautiful guitar, a Fender up in Canada. And I got a lot better at playing the guitar because that guitar I could play. But I had a lot of fun, and those vacations are beautiful things in my memories. And isn't that the whole point to life, is to have fun? Well, we're going to have fun, but you can't have fun unless you let yourself have fun. You got to let yourself. You got to stop, demanding so much of yourself. You're not required to do. You're not Superman. You don't have to do all these carnal things and get entangled in this world and worry about the bills and the stress and make your life more simple. You say, well, my children, they got to have fancy cars and fancy houses, and I want to keep up with the Joneses. And get all stressed out. That's not fun. It's not even fun for the kids. Your children don't care about fancy things. It's like my dogs. They see people, like my daughter will go to the store and she buys this, like a toy for the dog. And I'm like, Autumn, the dog is going to be happy with a piece of stick. Give him a stick. Give him an old shoe. I mean, you can go get an old shoe for $1, at the thrift store. What do you, and that's what they love, right? But, she wants to spend $5 or $10 on this little old, toy that she buys at Petco or something. Well, children are the same way. They don't need fancy, expensive things. I know you think you got to get them a PlayStation or a Xbox or whatever the thing they're doing these days. I don't even know. Well, really what you're doing is you're just ruining them. They're going to spend hours getting entrapped and entangled into this thing. They won't be able to get out. They'll get fat, sitting around, lazy, and sick. So don't buy them any of those things. Take all of your resources and buy yourself a Winnebago or a truck and camper and go take the children camping to Yellowstone. They'll remember that far more joyfully than anything you could do. Really doesn't cost that much. You got to have a vehicle anyway. So buy a truck, get a little camp trailer or a cab over camper or anything like that. Or just, if you've got the money, go to motels. But, it doesn't cost that much to go traveling and see the beautiful parks in this country. And you don't even have to go to parks. There's beautiful lakes and streams. And I was just telling somebody just a few minutes ago in the comment area, they were talking about Oklahoma and how beautiful it was. There's a lake or a reservoir down in the southern eastern part of Oklahoma called Broken Bow. It's so beautiful. I mean, the average person has no idea. You think, oh, well, if you're going to have something, we're going to go on vacation, we got to go to Disneyland, or we got to go to Florida, or we got to go to the Bahamas, or something, very expensive. Just drive to Oklahoma. That lake has these little islands, and each of the little islands, just thousands of them, all over there's little inlets and coves, and it's crystal clean, beautiful water, crystal clean rivers and streams, and each of these little islands has like a little white sand beach around it. You're all by yourself. You can get you a canoe for $300, right? Paddle out there or whatever, and just have the time of your life. I mean, I have a friend that always wanted to go to Lake Powell. There's lots of little coves and little white sand beaches and beautiful water there, and we've never been able to do that. We've been wanting to do that, and we've never gotten over there. But I was just telling him the other day, well, out here in Oklahoma, we've got quite a few little places like that, some beautiful lakes to go to, and God willing, we're going to do all those things, because life is about having fun. And while you're having fun, you're learning. You're learning the things you're supposed to be learning. You're learning joy. You're partaking of the tree of life, because you're able to be calm and gentle, and you're getting that poison out of your veins. It's you know, you're in, like, it's almost like rehab for your soul, and that's what you need. And then you can spend some quiet time meditating on the Word and find out who you really are. You can't think about who you are when you're speeding down the road at 80 mile an hour on a 5-lane freeway, 5 o'clock, and everybody's getting off of work, and then you're in a traffic jam for hours. I mean, how can you live like that? Get out of there. I've been in Dallas a few times where, I got stuck on a freeway for like 4 hours. I mean, I couldn't even figure out what the heck was going on. When I was up there in New York area, I was going from Philadelphia up into New York, and that I think it was like 5-lane, 6-lane freeway. And they would slow down to a crawl, and I thought, what is going on? Must be a wreck or something. And finally, after about an hour, you'd get there and you'd find out what it was. Oh, somebody was just parked along the road looking in their glove compartment or something, and so everybody had to slow down, right? And that just slowed everything down. It was crazy. And then about every 20, 30 miles, you stop and you pay another $10 in the toll booth, right? It was so crazy. I don't know how anybody could enjoy that. I guess that's why people don't even have cars in New York City. But I like my freedom, and I like being out in the space and in an area where we're free, and you got some nature and some beautiful things to see and some peace and quiet. A lot of people who live in the cities don't even know they would like it, because they think, oh man, as soon as they're all by themselves in their phone, they left it home, and they're like, uh-oh, I got to go home and get my phone. I can't even deal with this peace, this quiet, this doing nothing thing. I can't deal with this. I got to go do something all the time. Well, you know what? Trust me. Try this. Go out there one time. Take your phone with you if you need to. Put it in the car, and, once or so or twice a day, go and check it. Maybe there's something important going on. Okay, fine. But put it in the car and go out there on the beach and just sit there without any disturbances, without any thoughts or worries, or I got to go home, or I got to do this, or got to do that. Just get it all off your mind and lay there and just get bored out of your mind until you finally say, your mind starts thinking. You've tricked yourself into actually getting all that stuff off of it if it's weighing on you, and now you're contemplating, and you're actually like, whoa, and I never thought of that, and wow, and you start feeling that peace start to seep in and start feeling happy. Once you've tasted that, whoo, buddy, there ain't no going back. Come on, guys, let's go to Vegas. Don't stop off at the Cube. I guarantee it's not going to be good. Trust me. Pull the cord out of your ear and wake up. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go, friends. I hope you guys have a great day. This is David Bose, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good one.